Girls that gave the nice guy a chance. How did it go? He was lovely. I met him when I was taking art classes at a college. He was doing the class as a second subject as he needed more qualifications to go to university. We had a really lovely first year together. I met his family and they were also really nice people until he failed the exam. And I didn't. When he got his results at the same time as me, he went ballistic and said in anger, "Why do I always have to settle for second choice?" And I said, "That's not true, you've." But I didn't get time to finish what I was going to say. He interrupted with, "Don't think you were even my second choice. You were just available. And no wonder why. You're defective, so I could be certain no one was going to try and take you away from me. I have a disability." And he was a nasty, jealous little bastard underneath that nice exterior. And a few more details, if you are interested in a bit more. I'm profoundly deaf from birth. Use hearing aids now, but they are only to boost what small capacity I have to hear some sounds, and my main communication outside the internet is lip reading and BSL. This is why my punctuation/spelling and sometimes grammar can be hard to read. I have to remember all the rules without much of an auditory prompt. See, when people naturally pause in speech, my brain is still trying to catch up with that lip shape. So commas and things are curious little additions to me. I do try though and appreciate any direct comments. If I've made something totally unreadable or turned a good point into a mess of bad punctuation. Now, a bit more about the situation. I think he was a deeply competitive person, more so than I realized. It was hidden from me for a year because he didn't regard me in any way as competition. He was only doing the art classes for the qualification to add to those he needed for his chosen subject. Then suddenly he failed, and I of all people passed. Perhaps to him, I went in that instant from girlfriend, disabled, passive and no threat to his self-esteem, to winner of the exam race and total threat. Anyway, it taught me something about how deceptive people can be, and a bit about attitudes to disability, and a bit about relationships. He went off to university. It wasn't his first choice of uni, but then he didn't have the grades for that. He seemed great. We hit it off and worked through some early issues. He ignored me for days at a time to play video games with his friends. Not even a text of hello or sorry, I'm busy. His mom was diagnosed with cancer about a year in, and I moved in with him so I could spend as much time as possible with her and support him as she was terminal. 8 months after she passed away, a friend of mine found his profile on the dating app we met on. Currently active with a paid subscription. Same exact profile I met him with. When confronted, he said he was just trying to make friends, and that I couldn't count it as cheating because nobody ever messaged him back. We tried to work things out, but he was found a month later on the same dating site by the same friend. I wish I could say that was the end, but I gave him another chance. Over the next year he became the most hateful, miserable man I've ever met, and I could no longer mentally handle it. I moved out. I was coming out of a string of really bad, toxic, abusive relationships, so I promised myself that I would try to find a nice guy to date. Well, I had a first date with this one guy. We'll call him Tim. It was a fine date. He was nice, and we had fine conversations. I didn't feel any immediate chemistry, but I was also not used to dating guys who weren't blatant bad guys, so I figured that was why I didn't feel an immediate connection. I told myself I'd go on one more date with him and see if the connection grew in any way, so we go on a second date a week later. It was a short date. We had an early dinner, and I was back home 90 minutes after he picked me up to drive me to dinner again. No sparks, but he was nice, and it wasn't a bad date, so I told myself I'd go on one more date with him, and that would be the deciding factor. I was still wrestling in my head with the idea that I was just not attracted to him because he wasn't a bad guy, and maybe I was just scared of nice guys. Well, on our third date, he asked me to move in with him, offered to put me on his health insurance plan. I was uninsured at the time, and told me he loved me. I very gently told him that he was a great guy, but he was clearly more invested than I was, and that it wasn't fair to him, that he deserved to be with someone who was equally attracted to him. At the time he was cordial, but confused, and we parted ways. Next day, he posts a long rant on Facebook about how nice guys finish last. Girls only want to date bad guys. He opened his heart and his home to this ungrateful girl, only to be slapped with a rejection. He left it up for a few days and then blocked me. Self-proclaimed nice guys almost never are. If you're really a nice person, you don't need to advertise. Then there are nice guys who really are nice, but in an overbearing way. No girl worth being with for the long term wants to be worshipped. I did end up marrying a truly nice guy. He made me laugh. He had his own life and didn't expect me to be his whole world or for me to change my life for him. He didn't play games. He listened to what I had to say and didn't come to me with a lot of assumptions about who I was supposed to be. He looks out for me, but knows I can look out for myself just fine. He's kind and I have never met a person who didn't like him. He doesn't advertise his niceness because there's no need. It would make as much sense as sunshine advertising itself. I almost gave the nice guy a chance, but after he showed up at my house uninvited and made my dad super angry, had a strict no boys allowed rule until I hit 18. I was 15 at the time. I gave up. He begged me to give him a chance because we both liked World of Warcraft. That was it. Glad I did give up because of stalking, inappropriate thigh touches at lunch, creepy talks about what he wanted to do to me, trying to convince me to sneak out in the middle of the night to see him, and etc. absolutely terrified me. I haven't seen him in quite a while, but I'm honestly still scared to be alone in that county. I have a BF. Now that doesn't do that, but I never go visit my parents without him or stay at their house alone. I'm now 23 and still worry. I found him very smart at first, but after dating for a while and sleeping together he proceeded to become the worst misogynist I've ever known. Tried to control my choices in food, clothing, friend, political stance, everything, and when I ended things, he proceeded to share to his friends, which were also my new friends at that time, all the things I shared to him in confidence while we were dating. And when I finally blocked him from everything, he tried to reveal things in class, group chats where our classmates, outside the friend circle, were members of. It was the worst dating experience I've ever had, and he wasn't even good looking. Needless to say, I won't ever indulge in charity cases again. We had a messy, volatile on and off thing going for a long time. He cheated on me, as well as the next several girls he dated. Then I moved away, developed a hardcore independent streak, and became career driven, while he got with and married one of my best friends. They've been together for 10 years now, married for about 6, and they have a rainbow baby. He seems to have shaped up, and we all had dinner once a month or so. I was also with a genuinely nice guy at one point. An unfortunate series of life circumstances at the time kept us from officially making a go of things, and he got with another girl who ended up pregnant a month into their relationship. They got married and have 3 children. Out of all the people I was with, he was the only one I would have considered a future with. Regardless of how many times I said I wasn't interested in a relationship, he continued making moves and flirting, telling me that he wanted to spend the rest of his life with me and that we were soulmates. He told me that he was having a rough home life and that I was the only one in the world who didn't think he was creepy for the way he looked or would give up on him. Nobody ever said that he was ugly. He would constantly ask if he was handsome or not, and he was not bad looking at all, just lacking in some hygiene skills like wearing deodorant and showering regularly, and dental care. He seemed really insecure about the way he looked, to the point that the insecurity became the most noticeable thing about the way he carried himself. No amount of compliments or reassurance would soothe him. I showed up for his football games and performances to support him, and he never showed up for my plays or finished small tasks that I asked him, as a friend, to complete. Whenever addressed, he would break down and say that he was the worst person in the world and that he would die for me. He eventually stopped talking to me and moved on to somebody else. I honestly think he needed more attention and love from his parents and was using the desire for a girlfriend to fill the emotional gap. I feel bad for him, but I'm glad to have some distance. Long ago, in the time of myths and legends, when ancient heroes still roamed the earth, and before Atlantis was pulled into the sea, I was the nice guy. I was the nice guy who was 100 pounds overweight, who wore hiking boots to his suburban school, and paired them with cargo shorts and heavy jackets. I was the nice guy who had no social skills because I spent all of my time alone watching anime and reading Dragonlance. It's important for me to speak out to anybody reading this thread who may be wishing the same thing that I did, that a girl would just give me a chance. That's not how it works. A Hyperborean wanderer. That's not how it's ever worked, nor how it will ever work, and the sooner you realize that, the sooner you can start taking steps toward having a normal social life. If you're anything like I was, you fill in your lack of real life social skills with the social interactions you absorb from fiction. The guy's rejected at first, but has to win her over, or she doesn't know the guy exists, and he has to perform some grand gesture to attract her attention. Or she isn't interested, and so he has to convince her to give him a chance. These tropes feel real, because they get played out again and again on the screen and page, but they are just like the trope of the lone master swordsman who defeats a seething horde of foes with nothing but raw skill and a bamboo reed. In real life, we know that he'd just be mobbed in seconds and get shanked in the kidney by some stupid goblin, but we love the drama of it, so we give it a pass. The thing is, the rest of society already understands this about the romantic gestures in fiction. They instinctively know that these things are cute in a story, but are as fake as the lone swordsman. It's people like us that get sucked into the delusion, with no direct experience with what is real in normal human relationships. We try to reenact what we've seen work in all of the stories we've seen and read and heard. It's logical, in a way, if you consider it from our point of view. A philosopher might call it something like a Plato's cave situation. People like us are watching the shadows dance on the wall and trying to interpret the outside world through them. It doesn't really matter how or why we got to that place. The point is that these tropes are not real and never will be. If a girl isn't interested in you, she is never going to be interested in you. You can't change that. Don't try. Trying to change her mind or win her over, or get her to give you a chance are overbearing actions, and may in fact scare her. It's not normal, and it's not okay.